Hi, everyone. It's Maureen Ryan Blake with the Power of the Tribe and the Rising Star Book Club. Well, today, almost Halloween, and I'm really excited about today's guest, Lois Herman. And I'm going to let Lois tell you what she does. Her new book, Chronicles of Hope. We're going to open that up and let's get into this. But it's about energies. It's about good and well, it's not good and evil. It's about the forces of energy, and it's also about divine messaging and receiving and acting with that. It's about ghosts. It's about spirits. It's about a great time for Halloween and All Saints Day. So we could not have timed this better. But Lois, welcome to the show. Tell people what you do and who you are.
Well, I'm Lois Herman, and my background is actually 40 years in diagnostics and medicine. I retired as a corporate executive, believe it or not, but on the side for 30 years, I have been exploring the fascinating world of the mind with hypnosis and spirituality. So I'm a spiritual hypnotist, a metaphysical teacher, transpersonal hypnotist, all that. And I have so many different things that I have done and experienced. But what I do now is I help people to connect with their wise mind, whatever that would be to them, be it angels, passed over loved ones, guides. I have the ability to tap into my guides myself. But my gift to others is to help. If you were to go into a hypnotic state or trance, you could communicate with your loved ones, or you could have a conversation. If you believe in Jesus, he is right there. If we've tried Muhammad, they've told us that he's on another galaxy right now. But Aurora, we've got so many, the archangels. I work with the archangels all the time, and they're very real. Kuan Yin comes, white buffalo, calf woman, depending upon your belief system, you have the ability to fully experience a conversation with them. It's amazing. And I am blessed to be the facilitator for people who want to experience this journey.
So let's do a little grounding here and give this some context. So first of all, you came from corporate, medical.
Absolutely. Yes.
All of that. Did you say 30 years?
40
years.
Yes. Yeah.
And so this is really important that, okay, in this hypnosis, right, where it's some that we're able to take our minds to different, and they are frequencies, right? Because
absolutely.
Okay, so there's the science of that. So we're taking our mind to a different frequency to allow energy to be received.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
What happens is when we get into a lower vibrational energy, we get stuck. And my background was in ultrasound. So I have a background in the physics of sound. And the lower vibrational energies that's the energy of guilt, shame, fear, anger. Dr. David Hawkins is a brilliant MD, PhD who wrote a book called Power versus Force. And he quantifies the energy of emotions on a logarithmic scale of 0 to 1,000. And when we're vibrating in that lower level energy of fear, that's where we're stuck. And that's all we see. Everything around us is fear-based. So if we can work to shift our energy up to at least the energy of willingness, and he has them quantified like, on that logarithmic scale, the lowest level is guilt and shame at 50 and 35, and fear is like 75, and anger. But if we can get up to willingness, which is neutrality at 200, then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's opportunities. Do you remember the last time you bought a pair, like a car? All of a sudden, everywhere you see that car, it's like, oh my gosh, I never saw that car before, but it was in your awareness. So when we can lift our energy, we become more aware of other things that are around us. Mm-hmm. And as we raise our vibrational energy to higher and higher levels, then these wise ones who are vibrating at very high levels, then they can actually communicate with us. But if we're down here at that low level, We don't hear them. We don't see them or sense them. Many people pray, but that prayer is just a one unidirectional flirt. But when we quiet our mind and lift our energy, we can actually hear the response because they are trying to get through to us.
Well, let's break it down a little bit further then. Is that so lifting energies? And you know what's so funny is I saw a COVID analysis that you are actually more receptive to being sick, that the virus is at a lower frequency, you're more susceptible to getting sick, more susceptible to contracting, and your immunity is reduced.
Your immune system is lower with that lower frequency vibration. Absolutely truth.
So, but now raising your energy level, what kinds of things bring you to a higher level? And I know you know, but let's let our audience just follow us there.
Sure. Well, one of the things to do is think of things that gives you joy. So I'm gonna hold this up. This is actually from, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is from Dr. Hawkins.
Oh, we can see that. I love this. This is exactly what I was looking for. Great.
So down here is guilt and fear and shame and anger. If we can come up to courage, which is neutrality, willingness, way up here is love and joy. Now, it's kind of hard to stay at joy, but if you just stop for a moment and think of the last time someone gave you flowers. Do you remember that? And you can feel it and it shifts. Do you remember the last time you played with a kitten? Or watched, saw a funny show and laughed?
Laughter.
Laughter is huge. I know someone who is a laughter yoga teacher, and just just laughing raises your vibrational frequency. So those are things we can do for ourselves. Turning off the news. Don't watch all that stuff that we're being programmed for fear and anger and all that. Turn it off and step outside, Mother Nature, breathing fresh air. And if you can't go outside, just watch the snowfall. Well, wherever you're at, watching the snowfall, watching the birds, watching the squirrels, just connecting with nature will raise your energy. Listening to music, dancing, getting in the groove. There's all kinds of things. Think about when you're down, you're sad, you're down, you're compressed, you've got no energy, right?
Yeah.
Depression, sadness is no energy. But even if you could look up to the clouds, that will shift your energy in a physiologic way. So it's about shifting to a higher level of vibrational frequency. And you can quantify this, but you feel it when you think of something that gives you joy.
Everything is energy, right? Mm-hmm. And then within that, so scientifically, that again on the lower frequencies are those things that we get our own way, our guilt, our anger, our fear, our sense of scarcity and staying there. And then truly is actually a lower on the bar. And then as we can move higher, meaning simply just bring into I don't want to say happier, but happy is high and the lower energy, anger and hate is low. And if you can actually measure this.
Yes.
So let's shift this now. So let's bring it up a little higher. So within this, then tell us, and then your team, David and Gary, tell us then, you went from knowing these energies, right? Sonogram and that, what was this next stage and this awareness, where did that come from? And
sure.
what brought you here today?
So what happened, and it's an interesting story, and since this is almost All Hallows Eve, I'll tell you the story of how I got into this. I moved from the South, took a job with Hewlett Packard, a high-tech company, as a systems designer, very analytical, and I moved into a house with a ghost. So this was no ordinary ghost. This was the spirit of a woman who was a brilliant mathematician. Her husband had been so brutally abusive to her that she shot herself in the head in my basement. Now, here I have moved up here. I know nobody. I have a 7-year-old daughter who starts talking to me about a lady who's coming and singing to her at night. And she's not afraid, but this lady sings to her. So I ended up speaking with one of my neighbors and just mentioned this and she says, oh my gosh, that sounds like Judy. This was a lovely neighborhood. And I said, who's Judy? And she says, well, you know the man you're renting your house from. This was his first wife. And she had a daughter who was your daughter's age when she killed herself. So I'm like, okay, great. What do I do? I don't know
what do I do about this? Now I know who it is. And then, so what do we do here?
Well, now what do we do? She says, well, you know what? There's a woman across the street who is, she's a healer. And she has a friend who's a priest. Why don't you invite them over to dinner and they can bless your house? I'm like, great idea.
Okay.
So I invite them over. And Agnes, it turns out she was a metaphysical hypnotist. She became my mentor. And she has a whole interesting story in and of herself. She was a Holocaust survivor, a brilliant woman. So anyway, she and her friend, the priest, come over. We have a lovely time and they get up to leave. And I said, aren't you going to like, and they agreed that it
wait, don't go anywhere yet.
I know. I said, yeah, this sounds like Judy. And I'm like, aren't you going to sprinkle some holy water or do something? Yeah. And they said, actually, we've been given guidance that you need to learn how to do this.
They said that?
And I'm like, what? Me?
I work for Hewlett Packard.
Yeah, I'm divorced. I've probably been excommunicated, So they told me what to do. That night, I'm really good at following instructions. I lit a candle, sat on the stairs outside my daughter's bedroom, and had an imaginary conversation with Judy.
Were you nervous?
Yes,
apprehensive?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And what was interesting is my daughter's bedroom was right here, and I'm on the stairs. There was a mysterious locked door adjacent to my daughter's bedroom that I would find out later had all of Judy's belongings in it.
You didn't want to open it when you got there?
No, I was just told it's a storage room. Don't even bother. So
I would have wanted to open it.
So I sat on the stairs and I called in the angels.
She was in her room. Was she in her room with her stuff?
I waited till everybody was quiet. And so I said, I had this imaginary conversation with Judy. And I said, Judy, this is my daughter. Your daughter is grown and she's fine. And I'm going to take care of my daughter. And it's time for you to go into the light. So I felt some chills,
I'm getting chills now.
Blew out the candle and went to bed. Like, I didn't know what I was doing.
So did you feel her or you
No, not then.
Said,
no.
I just got to follow the instructions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So I waited. So I, went to bed and I waited a couple of days and I said to my daughter, so does the lady still come and sing to you at night? And she said, no, but there's a little boy. And I'm like, oh no. So one by one, I'd have a conversation with these imaginary people she would see and help them into the light. So then I became friends with Agnes and her priest named Abba.
Who was a little boy?
He was a lost soul.
So your daughter being children, of course, being at a higher frequency because they're just beautiful and full of love.
And she could see them and sense them and feel them. So when children have imaginary playmates, they're talking with a spirit. They can see them. They're very real to them. And I had been told, because I had been through this really traumatic divorce, which is what, part of what brought me up here to New England. And, but I was told this has just been traumatic to all of you. So pay attention to what your children say. So I didn't want to dismiss what she was saying. Yeah. And then come to find out she was very, very aware, and many children are. And so what we have to do is, so I went on to learn from Agnes and Abba about hypnosis, Reiki. I'm now a Reiki master teacher. Back in 95, I became a master teacher, but I studied about the whole spiritual world. My whole life took a change and I just started to become more and more fascinated with all things spiritual. And then I met another mentor who would teach me the techniques that I now use to help lost souls and nasties and whatever you want to call them.
Okay, so hold on a second there. So let's go back to the science, right? Because science is something, it's just a way of looking at things and putting order together.
Yes.
So within then, so in that teaching, are they just teaching you to be at a higher frequency? What, or are they, or is it opening your perspective and allowing things in? What did you study?
Well, many people, there are people who are true psychics and have these gifts. They have that awareness and that special gift. I've developed it over years, but at the time, what I do is I use hypnosis. I help you get into that altered state. I stay grounded. I stay very much aware of what you're doing, and then allows you to travel and to experience this other world. It's as if I like to tell people that when people pass over, they go to another state. It's like they've moved to Alaska. We can't see them, but we could sure talk with them, right? So if you quiet your mind enough, you can imagine, you can talk with them. So my clients talk with their guides and their family members all the time because they've got to quiet their busy mind, and then they hear and they can relate to them. So it's like you can't see them. It's like you can't see electricity, but you sure don't want to put your finger in a socket, do you? These are very, very real. And so I have thousands of stories, if you will, of ones that have passed over. I have to tell you a really funny story. So pets have energy too. I always check on people's pets when they come for sessions. I get I find out who all has passed over and what other pets they have. Well, when I was studying some of the techniques that I was learning, this was 20 something years ago, we were practicing with each other. When you learn hypnosis, you practice on each other. That's how we develop our skills. And then we become like hypno junkies. We love it because, and it's experiential learning. So there were a small group of us, and I was staying in this beautiful old inn at the time. And these gentlemen had a dog. I was renting from these three gentlemen, and they had a dog that was a beautiful old black lab. And they were talking about possibly having to put the black lab down. Yeah. Because it had developed a tic and was getting really angry. And the dog was usually really docile, but the dog just kept having this tic. And so we had exhausted all of each other, clearing the spirits around each other. So we decided, let's check on the dog. The dog had been through extensive testing. The doctors could not figure out what was wrong with it. Was there a brain tumor? They couldn't figure it out. So one of us goes into trance, and when in trance, she could see the energy around the dog.
Okay. All right.
Here's this beautiful docile black lab, and there's this little chihuahua, spirit of this chihuahua, nipping at this dog, and the dog is like, get this thing off of me.
He attracted a little chihuahua spirit.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's really funny. So
stuff up.
What do we call? We called St. Francis to come and help the little chihuahua spirit. St. Francis comes with a spirit of sweetheart beagle. And the beagle helps to escort the chihuahua into the light. And then the beagle comes back and is there to nurture the black lab, because when nature fills a vacuum, when you pull something out, you got to put something back in. Right. So now the sweet, sweet beagle, spirit of the sweet beagle, is there with the dog. So a couple days later, the guys stopped me. They saw me. They said, did you guys do something with the dog? I'm like, maybe. Why? And they said, all of a sudden, all of the behavior is gone. He's back to his docile, sweet, gentle self. The tic is gone. He's not getting angry and agitated anymore.
That's lovely.
I told him what we did, and he's like, okay, you know, this is funky stuff, but it's very real. The spiritual world is very, very real. And
so if we were to put a picture on this, because I'm trying to continually ground my audience in a perspective of what this would look like, just essentially, it's just a higher frequency. And there's all these frequencies, right? Yes. That everything has. And it's just higher, and it's happening up here, and our frequencies here, like sound versus light. And so it's here. Because energy is never lost, right? And we are energy. And so that
Absolutely.
energy is resonating up here.
Mhm.
And that only when you, and then we got to get into Gary. So so the opening is, describe the opening of, is it's the channeling of, because I can understand being at a higher frequency, right? And elevating yourself as you continue to cleanse the negative energies.
That's right. So we as physical beings have energy spectrums, and the higher level energy we are, the more peaceful we are, the more calm. And when a person dies, their spirit is eternal. So there are four parts to us. There's the physical, that's the clothes we wear. There's the mental, that's our intellectual part, the emotional part, and then the spiritual part. The spiritual part of us is eternal. It goes on forever. Many have had many lifetimes.
And unique, right? Just like a snowflake, everyone absolutely unique.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when we incarnate, we have a new body. And some of the memory comes with us from former lifetimes. You've heard of children who can just play the piano with no training. They just know it. That's a memory that's come from a prior life. They come in with memory. Some children will actually look at mom and say, I had a different mom before. So some children, then as they grow, they forget that prior memory. But we're all parts. So when we die, the physical part is gone, the mental, emotional part, some of that will traverse with us into the next lifetime, but the spiritual part is eternal. Now, if you've ever been to a funeral, the minister, the priest, whomever is saying a prayer for this person, and everybody is sending prayers and sending love. Prayers work. They totally work because that's a positive energy. And so they call, if you listen to what they're saying, is they're calling their family members, and depending upon their belief, if it's Jesus, if it's Kuan Yin or whatever, the family members to come and help lift this one into the light. So many people, most people, when they die, if they have a strong belief, positive belief, and if they've done good things in their life, they're resolved with their death, they go into the light. I call it the light. Some
The
people
light, but it's a higher energy.
it's
That's what
the
it's that. Okay.
some people call it heaven. It's a higher realm of energy. But if a child was abused and died, if someone died suddenly and they were disoriented, if someone died and did not have any spiritual awareness, they can be stuck. They
There's
don't
no
know
coming
where
for
to
them,
go.
and they weren't open to them to guide them.
Did you ever see the movie Ghost?
Yeah.
So you know how when he died, he had an opportunity to go into the light, but he decided to stay and help her. That was so real, so real. Everyone has that opportunity, but if they're disoriented or scared, they don't go into the light, so they're stuck. And then what happens is they will come to be around someone else just to befriend them. This is this,
Company. We're
yeah.
meant to still. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, people want to communicate.
Yeah.
And then they stay with that person. Usually, they often will come as a child when a child's scared or lost or whatever, then the spirit will come to help the child most of the time. And then you have ones that are what I call nasty, that are coming to take over, to control, to do harmful things. And this, they can puppet and they can do, there are those that I call them nasties. Some people call them demons. They're very, very, very real. And they can, if your energy drops low enough, and if you've been intent on doing misdeeds, you can actually attract one of those. And that's not a happy thing. So we clear them as well. I have many stories about that, but identifying them and learning how to help to clear them. And I want to just give a big disclaimer. I don't clear the nasties. The archangels do.
Okay.
That's in their realm. So I work with them, and whenever I encounter one that I know this is not just a simple lost soul. Lost souls, we call their relatives, and the relatives come and take them. And it's beautiful. It's like finding a lost child in the store. How can I help you? It's not sage, be gone. The problem with saging or commanding one away is, guess what? It just goes from me to you. And that's not helping either of us. So what I do is I actually identify this lost soul and I have a conversation with it. And when did you come to be with Maureen? How old was she and why? And what happened to you? And so we find out what happened to the spirit, and then we invite their family to come and take them. And they go fully into the light. And it's beautiful. And then I call in the saints, the whatever that person's belief system is. If it's Mary, she comes and, and she brings grace and love, or oftentimes it's an angel, or it could, or whatever that person's belief is.
Well, that's a good segue here, because we're going to get into the book a little bit. I just wanted to give people a little backstory. There's so much backstory that
I know.
But so the book, Chronicles of Hope. Now, first of all, the Chronicles of Hope are, tell us the Chronicle of, then let's introduce your team, and then what that looks like. So I have tons of questions.
So almost 4 years ago, it was October 2016, I had this gentleman come to me who was a little overweight and Einstein looking guy, sweetheart of a guy, difficulty sleeping. His mind raced, and he's a brilliant scientist. Okay. And I'm like, sure, I can help you with sleep. Do that all the time. That's normal.
Okay.
Now, when you go into trance and you're talking to Jesus, Mary, your grandmother, you're having the conversation. My job is the scribe. I'm tracking the journey. I'm keeping you safe. I'm making sure that whoever you're talking with is safe. That's my job. He goes into trance, opens his eyes, looks at me and says, we need your help to save humanity. Humanity is headed toward the next great apocalypse. If they do not change their ways, they may not have much time left. 6 pages of notes later, he comes out of trance, and I asked him, so what did you think of that? He's like, it was very relaxing.
You don't remember it.
He did not remember a thing. I was blown away because
Would you normally remember?
Absolutely remember everything.
Okay.
Yes. So the next time he comes, he agreed, and I turned on a little recording app on my cell phone, and sure enough, they came again.
This is not what you were trying to get out of him.
No. Well, I actually was. My intent was to help him to heal. So when you read the first book, several of the first sessions were all about what can I do to help him to heal? So we had to do a soul retrieval. We had to do a major clearing on him. There were all kinds of things. That's all in the first book.
Okay.
It's really interesting. But the first book is all about the energy. And the first book is the On Creatus, the Chronicles of Hope. So there were 20-something sessions over a 2-year period where we got all this information. Then we're like, what do we do with this? What would you do if somebody asked you to save humanity? I'm like, I love what I do. I do my thing. I don't need to, I have no interest in being rich and famous. I'm happy doing what I do. But I needed to get the word out there. So we decided to write a series of books. So the first book is the On Creatus. The ones that came through, they said they were 8 and they were 1. They were the first, their highest level energy. And they were like historians. They could only stay for a short period of time because their vibrational frequency, their vibrational energy was too high to even come through Gary. And he was a very high level energy being. So his whole reason for being here was to be that voice or that conduit, if you will, to get the message for me to deliver. But these ones we're talking about, you must teach people about the negative energy and how pervasive it is. You must teach people what you know. And then, of course, I'm asking questions because I've been doing this work for years. So, in your field, wouldn't you be asking?
I ask questions.
Yeah. So that's what I do is I ask questions. So I'm asking questions and they would answer anything that I would ask. And so initially the sessions were about the energies, feeders that drain us and cause us. We have to shift our energy. We have to choose to shift our energy because we are sovereign beings. We are co-creators. These wonderful light beings are pure light. They're not going to control us. We have free will to choose. So they can help us when we ask. That was the biggest message is we must ask, and then they will be there in a jiffy to help us, but they will not interfere with us. So
I'm going to hold that book there because I want to
okay.
get to this book, and we'll go to
Yeah.
we'll do it back. So Gary came in because Gary's very much prevalent in Chronicles of Hope.
Yes.
So Gary he was again someone very special put on this earth for a reason. And you so simply in sessions with him, he said, I'm not sleeping, and that's how it opened up whatever Gary was.
Yes. Right.
So now. And so let's bring people a little forward on the Chronicles of Hope. Let's bring in the team. So there's you and there's Gary, right? And then I'm going to bring David in because I know I'm getting ahead, and you guys got to read the book. There's just so much here. But so now these sessions went forward, and so the first book is just 4 years ago, right? When did this when did it move from the 8 to the children?
So as I'm communicating,
and maybe we should fill them in what I'm saying, the children.
Yes. So as I'm communicating with them, they're coming through, and they're the historians. And so they gave us the history of how the world was, that came from a spark of life, came from Mars. Mars was hit by an asteroid. So they gave us all this history. And then I started asking more questions about specifics on Earth. And they said, well, we should send one of our children because they are with you more readily. And then are their children and their children's children. So their children are a little bit lower level vibration. And they are what we would call the archangels. They would also be the ancient gods of mythology or the gods in polytheistic religions. So they cannot incarnate, but they have always been here to guide us. Many people consider that they are the aliens. They are the extraterrestrials. They're here helping us because that they are the guardians of our world. And they're beautiful.
And if we're going to go back to science, there are beings at a higher energy, and that we're not at that energy.
Correct. And yet, so Gary as a channel, they could come through him. That was the unique thing. He was sent here to be that channel. We actually realized that as we're going through all this. So then the children's children have high level energy, and they can incorporate as humans. They would be the teachers, the prophets, Jesus, Lao Tzu, Muhammad, Buddha, the Kuan Yin. These were beings that did incarnate and brought teachings to us. And they're still around in the spiritual world. People will pray to Jesus and he's there. The same thing if you pray, Lao Tzu will come through, Buddha, Einstein. I've had clients call Einstein. They will come if you call. So anyway, this is the next layer, what they call the children's children. And so Gary is a children's children. So he is from there incarnated to be able to bring the message. And I know I'm an old soul. So part of what they have, asked me, this is part of what you've been trained to do. You know how to help with this. And because of my background as a director, I worked, marketing. I've done a lot of things in my medical background that gives me the tools to be able to have conversations like this. Gary, very shy, very backward, does not want to be in the limelight. And so we're respecting that. His job was to be the conduit. My job is to deliver the message. So we worked on the first book, got it out last year. It took, 2 years of the sessions. And then it was a lot of work just to get a book out in 1 year. And then this past year, we got the second book out. And I worked with a focused group of people that I trusted, and I typed up the sessions and handed it to them. And they said, can you explain this? You understand it, but we don't. So we created the sections in the book to where I'm actually explaining what this might mean. So the second book is the collective. It is the children and the children's children, and they came through because they are more with us on Earth. They could answer specific questions, and they gave us specific information about what we need to do right now, this day, to change our energy on this planet. This is immediate.
Okay, so I have I have a question, and I know
Yes.
that you need to read the book. And by the way, I loved the notes. I honestly, after the first of your analysis, I got it that I skipped your analysis and went right to the notes because it was only repetition for me. But
Perfect.
that's so. Um, the Okay, so they're saying that, and I want to know in history, is this the case? They're saying there's only one incarnated on the earth at this time, Gary.
No, there were three.
There were three, but one died and another one's so there's two, right?
Yes. Yes.
In history, and they're not bringing anyone else down. In
That's right.
history, were there more abundance of the higher energies incarnated and walking around? And is this part of that shift that the demise may be coming?
Well, they said that the demise is based on the hate, that
But
we have to shift our energy because the hate is causing that. One of the key themes that comes through all of the sessions is the energy of our mother Gaia. Earth is unique in that she has an energy. The spirit of the earth is named Gaia. They called it Terra. Earth is Terra. We've named it Earth. But the spirit of the earth is Gaia. And she's a little on the miffed side that her humans are, number one, not respectful of each other, and they're disrespectful of her. So hurricanes, tornadoes, she's cleaning house, and she cleans with a broad stroke.
that's
She's
the only way she can.
That's right. That's right. So she is writing our planet right now. So we must work with her to raise our vibrational frequency, our vibrational energy, to be able to co-create with her instead of causing destruction. So the people who are vibrating at that low level, that's all about greed and all about themselves, all about, so looking at the people who are coming from a place of honesty, integrity, and love. The first person who came through, the first children, was the god Ray of Atlantis. And he talked all about Atlantis, and I was shocked. I have distinct memory of being in Atlantis as a hypnotist. I have full recall of at least 50 or more of my lives. And I do remember being there, but I didn't know who I was. So he recognized me, which was pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And so we had a wonderful little flirtatious bond, which was kind of neat. And Gary was not that way at all. No, he was, you might.
Okay, that didn't come through the notes, the little thing. All right, there. That's
Okay.
That's your interpretation. That's interesting. I didn't
Well,
get that.
my editors were, they took out, they were having to edit some of the stuff where I was blushing, and he was like, "Oh, it's so good to see you again." I'm like, "Oh my God." I was like, anyway, Ray, the guy of Atlantis, said that Atlantis was an honorable civilization. That's what's happening right now. We have so much deceit and dishonor in our government, our higher levels, and that is going to cause our destruction. Because we asked, when we got to Aurora, I asked, is this going to be through nuclear? And she said,
knows
no.
she can't. She's not going to tell you when and where and what.
No, but she says, you're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
And humanity will extinguish itself if they do not learn to live with each other. They give so many nuggets in here of what we must do to shift. But see, they don't understand why there's so much hate, because they have no hate. They have no hate. They only are bliss. And so they're looking at these children, us on the planet, going, what is the matter with you? You should have outgrown that selfishness and come to a place where you are honoring each other.
Well, let's talk about the balance, right? And I don't want to say good and evil, because that's like a perceptive thing.
Yes.
But low energies and higher energies, right?
Yes.
That is. So there, in the book, you're talking about that those that have been around, right? People that have had other lives and come back. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Are more easily to be communicated with because it's been indoctrinated, or it's been repeated the lessons of time. And then you mentioned that there's just so many new ones now, meaning first time here, right? What is causing so many new ones to be here? And can you go into that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's in the Samael session when you get to that session, because that was my curiosity. So old souls that have been around multiple times, we have a bigger energy. We're like them. We're not quite as high level as the guides, but we do have a bigger energy. But if we don't take care of our physical, mental, emotional bodies, our energy is big, but it's depleted, and we draw negative energies. So even though you're an old soul, you must do your part to keep your energy healthy and strong. So I was asking, and then they talked about young souls, new souls. It's like kids in a candy shop. We're going to get into drugs and sex and so much anger and so all this stuff. They're just experiencing life on earth
For the first time.
Yes.
Okay.
They say you live on one of the most beautiful planets in the universe. And people line up to come here. This is like vacation place to come because it's so lush and so beautiful. So a lot of souls want to come here for the experience. But these young souls have no inner discipline, no guidance. Have you ever met a young person who is just like an old soul? We call them, they're just so mature. They have a different energy versus ones that get into everything. So I asked, well, why are there so many new souls? And you're going to read about this in the next chapter because I know you've gotten to Aurora. So Samael, he is the archangel of discernment.
And this is also causing a problem.
Yes, it is. So they're trying to control.
It's not being heard because they never heard it before. In addition to the high energy and low energy battle.
Right.
Okay.
So he is what one would be called the great transformer. So I was talking a minute ago about when I find a lost child, I can send them into the light and the angels take them into the light. Mm-hmm. If I find a murderer or a nasty, Archangel Michael says, I will take them where they belong. They don't go fully into the light. They go to a different place. I now know, based on the session with Samael, they're taken to him and they're held accountable for their life.
Oh, I don't want to meet Samuel then, do I?
Oh, yes, you do. He's wonderful. He's
got
the tough love papa. So if someone has been cruel, harmful, they do their life review and they decide whether or not they are going to start over or they're going to destroy their energy. The being does. They decide. They're held accountable for their life. And then if they start over, they have to start over very low. But if they decide, let's choose Hitler, for instance. He was annihilated. He chose that because of all the cruelty that he did. So people like that who do ultimate cruelty, they are held accountable for their actions. And then they will annihilate themselves. That energy is transformed into new souls.
Wow. So wow. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. So what you're telling me is that it's on a cycle here that
recycling. Yes.
Yeah, but but because there is so many that are in a really horrific things that they've done. They've come back in the new and destroyed. So that's why there's so much new, because there's so much destruction going on. Is this the vicious cycle that we're in?
Yes. And that's what we have to stop.
Are you serious?
We as humans have to shift the energy. It's up to us to shift the energy consciously, to shift the energy.
Can't they send them somewhere else? You said there was other things, other places and things. So in other words, it's a balance of the new versus the old. And so did they give you a perspective of that? And again, it's a bell, right? Whatever you want to call it, a pendulum. Mm-hmm. So are we accelerating that? Because the more that you have evil, which is that translates into new, and then are we out of sync, out of balance?
Some of this evil is perpetuated by ancient ones that have been around. These are the I call them nasties. And Archangel Michael will say, I will take them to the dimension they belong. So we have these benevolent ones that are here helping. We also have the dark side. it is a war between good and evil. It truly is. And those have millions and millions of minions, and we send them into the light. But Archangel Michael will take them to their dimension. They're not from our dimension. So once we remove them, then we bring in angelic light beings to take their place. So this is a lot of the work that I do that sounds really out there, I know, but this is my normal. And I do that. I've been doing this for 30 years. And now I'm having to come out of the closet and talk about it. But these beings are sharing this was a recipe to me for what we needed to do. And now I'm sharing it to those who are ready to hear. Not everyone is ready to absorb this information. And
No,
so
and they were also discussing that you're going to have backlash. It's just part of the course.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because the light will win.
So speaking of the part of the course and getting ready for whatever it is to face as you carry your message, what role was David? I know he kept the energy or kept the light. Can you explain that?
You mean Paul?
Paul,
yeah. So Paul was my consultant, and he and I worked together to clear people. So if somebody couldn't go into trance, or say somebody was in another place, this is before I was doing a lot of Zoom work. I do everything now via Zoom. But before, he would be able to go into trance. He had some real good psychic gifts, and he could go into trance. I have a whole team of people now. But at the time I was doing these early sessions with Gary, because I'm like, is this just me? Am I making this up? I called him to validate what was going on so he could see Gary's energy. He was able, when he would go into trance with Gary and he would be the observer, this was like a verification so that I wasn't being, I was like, is this guy pulling the wool over me? Is he just giving me a whole crock of, Mm-hmm. And so he was my validation. And then as it went on, I had other people that came in and were absolutely able to validate this was real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, I could talk to you all day long.
Back.
So, okay. So, and we're going to do another time because another book's coming, and we also have the first book. And so first we'll get the book. It's fantastic. It's an amazing reading that what you can take out of it is just then be kind, be good, and be happy and enjoy your life and do unto others as you would do unto yourself. End of the day, that's it. That was the whole message.
Right.
So within that though, and I'm so thrilled to speak with you, my friends. What would you say as your message to everyone who's listening?
One of the things that I have found with my wonderful team Hope, as I call them, and the people who have gotten back to me about the book, is most people get different things out of the messages. They resonate to them, and people will read it over and over again and get new levels of awareness as you read it. There's so many buried messages in there. So it speaks personally to each individual. And I am being told that this is a timeless book, which is part of why I've spent a lot of time and effort to get this out there. I was thinking, maybe 25 to 100 years from now, because they said in 100 years, if we don't change now, we are at a crossroads right now. We may not have more than 100 left. So it's really pivotal. And Gaia is going to go on. The earth will go on. But yeah, it's humanity. And some humans will go on, just like there were some survivors from Atlantis.
Well, it will not be. What they're saying is it goes back to another quote that the meek will inherit the earth.
Yes. And the meek does not mean weak.
No.
Meek means ones that are coming, that are heart-centered. The heart-centered people who are focused on helping other people. Truly heart-centered people, those are the meek.
So again, the message is then, can you just repeat what you said then, in being that what could everyone do would be simply what?
Simply pay attention to the people in our world, the leaders in our world read between the lines, go beyond the illusion and look at their actions. Deeds speak. Look at the actions. Look at the peacemakers. Look at the war makers. We need people who are peacemakers to guide us into the age of golden light. That's the sum total, and that's what they're saying. You must get the message to the people now, and you must look beyond. When you read Samael, discern for yourself. He specifically said it was the German people who were the first ones that were taken over, because they were just like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It does matter. And so we must pay attention, discern for ourselves, go into our sacred space, into that higher vibrational energy, and feel through the illusion. Because there are good people out there. There really, really are.
We're not hearing them.
And that's what Jesus said, because Jesus was one that came through, and he said, the voices of the negative are louder. There are more good people than negative, but the voices of the negative are louder. Make the voices of the good people heard. So that's why I started an Inspiring Hope radio show, to shine the light on all the good people. I know so many wonderful people like you that are celebrating other people. So I host a show every Sunday morning, and then the producer airs it like 4 times a week. But it's WSMN 1590. But you can find all of this at chroniclesofhope.net, or my other website is Lois Herman with 2 N's.com. And I have a YouTube channel. We've got Facebook, all of that. Everything for the book, everything for their messages. It's not, I am just a spokesperson. I have lived their messages. I have done battle with the shadow side. And I know we must hold our energy high in order to get through this next period.
We're going to do some back to school, but look how it's getting that interesting that my green screen is taking that. Look at that. That all you see is it's a great read. I mean, it's fantastic. It's just
I'm so grateful.
I'm an avid reader to begin with, but fascinating. And I'm just that's the word that describes it. And I mean, you're just it just moves.
And part of it, the back part, is the highlights. And I tell you, I was torn about putting the highlights in, but you can see.
I didn't get there yet.
That's what I use them. I refer to them all the time. I was a Course in Miracles follower for 20 years. So this to me is sort of like in a way, a new Course in Miracles. So you can just, once you read through, you can go to the highlights and just pick a segment that's inspiring, because that's their message.
Okay, I love that. I love that a lot. So looking forward, you're going to be having a big radio show for All Saints Day, which is November 1. We got Halloween coming up. We're having a full moon, a blue moon. I mean, there's so much energy with that. We'll talk about that another day. And I'm just really glad that you came on, and keep up the great work. And I'm going to keep reading. And thank you, my friend.
Thank you. And you're welcome to join our community. We have a community of hope, our Inspiring Hope community, and we get together and discuss this. People have questions. And so I have a Zoom session 4 times a month, and people can jump on and talk because people have questions.
So again, keeping it really easy, right?
It's all
Lois Herman, 2Ms.com. You can get all the information. Yes. 2 N's.
Yes.
And Lois Herman, 2Ns.com. Everyone can find you.
Yes.
And get the book, Chronicles of Hope. It's on Amazon.
Yes.
And that's a good place to start. There's going to be more coming. And all right. Yes. Thank you, my friend. And have an amazing All Saints Day.
Yes, absolutely. Stay in the light. I always end my shows with look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day.
I love that. All right, everybody.